Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening if you're joining us from either across the ocean or from the other coast, or we are here at this sort of borderline between the morning and the afternoon here. I am Magda Terer. I'm the Studies-Fordham in Judaic Studies and a co-director of the Center of Jewish Studies at Fordham. And on behalf of our center and the Arabic language program, it is my great pleasure to welcome you today to today's event with Dr. Wisam Abugosh, Chailela, who will be speaking on manifestations of Jerusalem in poetry. Jerusalem, a city with a millennia-deep history, a site of the ancient Jewish temple, a holy city for Christians and Muslims, a city of shared history and meaning for the three Abrahamic religions, something that our students have, and I have brought actually, have explored a couple of years ago in an exhibition on Jerusalem and the stacks. So, but as rife with meaning as the city is, it is also a city of people and of real lives. In today's world of harrowing wars, a world in which empathy is not only valued, but is considered threatening, a world in which it is easier to kill than to shake hands and share a meal, a world in which it is easier to construct an enemy than an ally or a friend, it is easy to erase, forget, or ignore the humanity of one another. I'm really pleased to welcome today Dr. Wisam Abugosh Chailela, a scholar of literature and the author of Racism and Xenophobia in Early 20th Century American Fiction, in which she has examined themes of exclusion and longing for a sense of home and belonging, racism, anti-Semitism, and xenophobia. Today, she will speak about the poems and lives of two poets from the region so rife with conflict and loss of life, Israel and Palestine. An Israeli Jewish poet, Yehuda Amichai, and a Palestinian national poet, Mahmoud Darwish. Dr. Wisam Abugosh Chailela is Associate Professor of English at the Al-Qassemi College of Education in Israel, where she is also the chair of the English department. Dr. Chailela specializes in Anglo-American literature and poetry and multi-ethnic literature and pedagogy of teaching. She earned her bachelor's and master's degrees in English and German language and literature from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and obtained a joint PhD degree in English and American literature from the University of Haifa in Israel and KU Leuven University in Belgium. This year, she's an Israel Institute Fellow at the University of Delaware. Before I hand over not the podium, but the table and the screen to Dr. Chailela, I want to say that we will host another event this semester related to the power of poetry. We'll have a screening of a film after, exploring poetry after the Holocaust. I also want to invite you to our upcoming event. Unfortunately, the event that's coming up on Sunday is full, so I won't invite you unless you already registered, which will be an art workshop exploring the art of medieval Haggadot and hands-on art workshop. But you can still register and come, and I hope you will, next week on Tuesday, April 1st at 1 p.m. For the next lecture in the Fordham NYPL lecture series in Jewish Studies with the novelist Rachel Kaddish, and the talk is called Ghosts Between the Lines, Historical Fiction and the Haunted Page. And that will be here on this campus at Lincoln Center in the McMahon 109 room, which is our usual space. Finally, I want to express my immense gratitude to our colleagues here at Fordham in the Arabic language program, Mohammed Al-Siadi and Mohammed Abdel Rahman, and our own colleague and Hebrew instructor, Hagit Halperin, who is with us, and the students for co-presenting the event and bringing their students. I also want to thank Shaban Verletza, who does so much for the center, and Emmanuel Fiano, the co-director of the Center for Jewish Studies. We work as a team, and it could not have been done otherwise. And finally, I want to express my gratitude to all of you who have come here in person and those of you who are joining us online for being part of our amazing community, and also to all of you who have supported us with your generous gifts. We do have here on site a handout with poems. Those of you who are online will see them on screen, and we will share them as PDFs in our newsletter on Monday. So without further ado, Wisam, the floor is yours.
Thank you for this wonderful introduction. Hello everyone, thank you for coming today. So today I'm going to talk about, as you see in the title, Manifestation of Jerusalem in Poetry. To start with, let's talk about the Jerusalem historical significance back in the millennia. It's a city worth visiting, so that it's a mixture, mosaic of several cultures, diverse city, which is very important and significant for people from Islam, Muslims, Christians, and Jews, as well as, of course, secular people, for everyone, to talk about the cultural aspect of the city. It is very diverse, and it's a blend, a mosaic of cultures, literature, art, and architecture, and those who visited the city could see that very clearly. When you walk through the alleys, through the markets, everything, you can see this diversity that is very obvious. And to talk about the political situation, of course, Jerusalem has been a very contested city throughout history. It was conquered by several empires: the Babylonian, the Byzantine, the Turkish, as well as the British, and other empires. And still today, it is still a very politically contested city, where people are, people, Palestinians and Israelis still, every side believes that this is the capital, their capital city. Also, the religious aspect, Jerusalem is known to be a haven for the Abrahamic faith, or Islam, Judaism, and Christianity.
I need to.
So I'm going to talk now about Jerusalem's demographic and geography. As you can see, okay, so does it work? Yeah. So this map illustrates the demographics of modern Jerusalem using color coding. If we look at the blue color, it represents the Jewish population that composes about 65% of the whole population, and the yellow color consists of or represents the 35% because the Arab population in Jerusalem. But looking also at, does it work?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So again, this doesn't work.
Oh,
Yeah, so
I know.
you can see that
Sorry, it's
the solid black line. Yes, you see the solid black line. It represents the expanded municipal boundary, the area under Israeli control since the 1967-60 war, during which Israel captured the West Bank, Gaza, and the Golan Heights, and of course Jerusalem. And the red dotted line represents the municipal boundary established by the 1949 Rhodes Armistice Agreement, marking the Israeli controlled area from 1949 till 1967. Notably, the Old City and the Temple Mount are located in the Israeli-occupied territory, east of 1949 red dotted line. As a focal point of Israeli-Palestinian conflict, both groups claiming it as the capital city. So, after 1967-60 war, the UN proposed a partition plan for Palestine, including a special status for Jerusalem as a corpus separatum, or a separated body in English, under international control. But this plan was never implemented, of course. After the Six-Day War in June 1967, Jerusalem came under complete control of Israeli forces. And of course, it was previously divided between Israeli-controlled West Jerusalem and Jordanian-controlled East Jerusalem. Subsequently, Israel expanded the municipal boundaries of Jerusalem, annexing East Jerusalem, a move not recognized internationally, of course. This annexation intensified the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and struggle, with Palestinians claiming that this is their capital as a city, as I mentioned earlier, and the Israelis also claiming it as their capital city. But if we forget about the politics, let's talk about poetry. Many poets were captivated by Jerusalem because of its nature, because of its significance, and the points that we mentioned earlier. And so many poets across histories and across cultures talked about Jerusalem or mentioned Jerusalem in their poetry. The medieval Jewish poet Yehuda Halevi wrote Ode to Zion, and some, of course, many Arab and Muslim poets also mentioned it. One is Abu al-Muzaffar al-Wardi and Ibn al-Khayyat al-Damashqi and al-Qadi al-Fadil. But also in the Western world, so many poets mention Jerusalem in their writing. Torquato Tasso, the Italian poet, also wrote Jerusalem Delivered in 1581. And Sir Edwin Arnold mentioned Jerusalem in his Bethlehem. William Blake, actually the Romantic poet in 1808, wrote about Jerusalem, and the poem that became England's unofficial anthem. So it became so popular that it became the England's unofficial anthem. So the poem is known as Jerusalem, but its name is its official name is "And Did Those Feet in Ancient Time," whereby he envisions the city symbolically as a site of spiritual awakening and national redemption. So to start with our featured poet, I'm going to start first talk about Yehuda Amichai, and then about Mahmoud Darwish. Yehuda Amichai was born as in Germany and Ludwig Volker, and he moved to Israel, immigrated to Israel with his family in 1938. Sorry. In 1938, water, yeah. His upbringing was religious, but upon reaching maturity, he became secular and he studied at the university. Thank you very much. At the university, he studied biblical text and Hebrew literature. And he was the first, actually, renowned Israeli Jewish poet to use the Hebrew colloquial in modern times. And that's what made him so special. He wrote extensively about Jerusalem and portraying the city of contrast, secular and religious, peace and war, and about the past and the present. He lived in Mishkanot Shananim and in Yamin Moshe, and we can see how these places that he lived in are reflected in his poetry, whereby these neighborhoods are across Mount Zion, so he mentions Mount Zion a lot in his poetry. I will read one of his very famous poems called Jerusalem, but in Hebrew it's called by the first line on a roof in the old city. So I read it in Hebrew for those who understand Hebrew, and for those who don't can listen, but read the translation as well. על גג בעיר העתיקה, כביסה מוארת באור אחרון של יום. סדין לבן של אויבת, מגבת של אויב, לנגב בה את זיעת אפות. ובשמי העיר העתיקה עפיפון, ובקצה החוט ילד, שלא ראיתי אותו בגלל החומה. העלינו הרבה דגלים, כדי שנחשוב שהם שמחים, כדי שיחשבו שאנחנו שמחים. So we can see that in this poem he uses like mundane objects of everyday life that everyone uses, but these like the white sheet symbolizes innocence and the color white, but at the same time he ascribes this white sheet to the enemy. Yes, although it is a self-reflection, like everyone uses the white sheet, everyone uses a towel, everyone uses these things. In addition, he talks about the child and the kite. Yes, the child and child. If you remember in your childhood, everyone had this kite and running with a kite and looking at it before this modern, these modern toys that our children now play with. But we used to make, kites and fly them. So he mentions these very basic things of everyday life, but also he shows how it is, how prideful or to live in this city that is full of boundaries between people, although they live next to each other. They are separated by a wall, but it's not a real wall. Yes, if you go to Jerusalem, you can see that Jews and Christians and Muslims live side by side, but the walls are these, that we make these walls. Yes, we don't want to see the other. We don't want to deal with the other. So in the end, he says to make us think that they are happy and to make them think we pretend. It's about pretense. use these symbols just to show the other side that we are happy, but in fact, we're not happy because of the situation. Yes. So, yes, in his poems, he also looks for, as I said, he was brought in a religious family, but he became secular, and he's looking always for a post-theological humanism, and he's looking for a human religion that is humanistic, that does not, is not connected to the three faiths. Yes, a secular religion that transcends the political conflict. And he's very similar actually to Mahmoud Darwish, as we shall see. Yes, both of them are secular, both of them are looking for this kind of new religion. And both of them also use daily life, objects to express their attitude towards the situation. In our second poem, Amichai also shows or illustrates Jerusalem as a shared humanized space where ordinary losses and anxieties unite individuals beyond political struggles. So, in our next poem, called An Arab Shepherd is Searching for His Goat on Mount Zion, first of all, we see his biblical references, yes? The shepherd, which is a word also prominent or used a lot, recurrent in Christian, in the Old Testament, in the New Testament, yes? The shepherd and the searching and the finding, yes? And Mount Zion is a place, a shared place of Muslims and Jews. So I'll read it also in Hebrew. רואה ערבי מחפש גדי בהר ציון, ובהר ממול אני מחפש את מי הקטן. רואה ערבי ואב יהודי, בכישלונם הזמני, קולות שנינו נפגשים מעל, בבריכת הסולטן בעמק באמצע. שנינו רוצים שלא ייכנסו הבן והגדי לתוך תהליך המכונה הנוראה של חד גדי. אחר כך מצאנו אותם בין השיחים, וקולותינו חזרו אלינו ובכו וצחקו בפנים. החיפושים אחר גדי או אחר בן היו תמיד התחלת דת חדשה בערים האלה. Here we see he explicitly talks about this new religion that he's seeking. And of course, he explores themes of shared humanity amidst conflict, whereby he equates between the shepherd who's looking for his goat or for his sheep, and him looking for his son. So they have something in common. He tries to find this common action that both sides have. Jewish father looking for his son, and the shepherd, the Arab shepherd, looking for his sheep. He also repeats the word searching, which underscores this universal existential quest for peace, understanding, and coexistence. Also, he, for those who do not know the story of Haggadah, or Hadgadia, sorry, it's a song that is from Leila Seder, and it also symbolizes this non-ending cycle of violence, whereby each animal wants to finish the other one until they reach. So he doesn't want his son to live in such a place where this non-ending cycle of violence exists. So he uses like this biblical symbol to refer to his objection to this fact, this non-ending violent cycle of violence. So also again, he also refers to these, the shepherd again is as I mentioned, imagery of Jewish and Christian traditions. We can find it in Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, Ezekiel 34 to 11, 34 chapter, 34, 11 through 12. For thus says the Lord God, behold, I myself will search for my sheep and will seek them out. In Luke 15, chapter 15, verses 4 through 7, the New Testament, the parable of the lost sheep. So we see him using these biblical narratives also and biblical references to take his to transcend his message about peace and coexistence, and also this image of the shepherd looking for his sheep. It triggers, the image of Abraham's near sacrifice of Isaac as well, yeah, which exists also in Islam in the Quran. Yeah, it's mentioned, and also in the Old Testament. So, although the names might change, like it might be different for Isaac in the Quran, it doesn't mention who the son is. Yes, but Muslims presume that it's Ishmael and not Isaac, but it's the same story. Yeah. Okay. So our next poet is Mahmoud Darwish. He was born in a village called Yehuda in the Galilee in 1941, so he was born after Amichai, and in some sources say that he met Amichai and he commented on his poetry. So I think he was he liked Amichai's poetry. Of course, the village was depopulated. It's in the north. It was depopulated by the Israeli forces in 1948, and his family fled to Lebanon and then came back. So because they missed the official Israeli census, Darwish and his family were considered internal refugees, meaning that they did not take or obtain the Israeli citizenship, but they became permanent residents, and they were considered present absent aliens. Darwish lived for many years in exile in Beirut and France, particularly Paris. In the 60s, he was in prison for reciting poetry and traveling between villages without a permit. And let me clarify this point. Between the years 1948 to 1966, the Arab population was under in Israel, not in the West Bank or Gaza or anywhere else, but I'm talking in Israel. They were under the military rule, meaning that there were curfews. The mobility was limited, so they needed a way to move from village to village. And this, of course, as a young man, it triggered anger and bitterness in Mahmoud Darwish, and he was also imprisoned a second time because because he wrote his poem an identity card, but it's not. He was not in prison. He was under house arrest. He was put under house arrest because the poem became a very famous one amongst the Palestinians and turned into a Protestant. So in 1996, he was permitted to return from exile and visit his family and friends. And he died in Houston, Texas in 2008. So he also uses biblical references explicitly in his poem. So we'll see in his poem In Jerusalem that he uses from the Old Testament, Isaiah 7 through 9. He uses from the New Testament, he uses a cross and from Islam he uses Miraj. I read it in Arabic. Is there anyone here who understands Arabic? Okay, Hebrew? Hebrew? Okay. So, all right, so you will have the translation, but I prefer to poetry and poem in the original language. They make much more effective. So, في القدس أعني داخل السور القديم أسير من زمن إلى زمن بلا ذكرى تصوبني فإن الأنبياء هناك يقتسمون تاريخ المقدس يصعدون إلى السماء ويرجعون أقل إحباطا وحزنا فالمحبة والسلام مقدسان وقادمان إلى المدينة كنت أمشي فوق منحدر وأهجس كيف يختلف الرواة على كلام الضوء في حجر أمن حجر شحيح الضوء تندلع الحروف أسير في نومي أحملق في منامي لا أرى أحدا ورائي ولا أرى أحدا أمامي كل هذا الضوء لي أمشي أخف أطير ثم أصير غيري في التجلي تنبت الكلمات كالأعشاب من فم أشعيا النبوي إن لم تؤمنوا لم تأمنوا أمشي كأني واحد غيري وجرحي وردة بيضاء إنجيلية ويداي مثل حمامتين على الصليب تحلقان وتحملان الأرض لا أمشي أصير غيري في التجلي لا مكان ولا زمان فمن أنا لا أنا في حضرة المعراج لكني أفكر وحده كان النبي محمد يتكلم العربية الفصحى ماذا بعد صاحت فجأة جندية هو أنت ثانية ألم أقتل قلت قتلتني ونسيت مثلك أن أموت. So, in this poem, before we go to what he means by the woman soldier that is referred to, he actually, the poem. So we see that this poem focuses on identity, circle conflict, and transformation and Jerusalem. He also portrays Jerusalem as a timeless place marked by conflict, contradictions, and sacred history, where prophets share a legacy. He mentions these references from Christianity, Judaism, and also Islam. And he wonders also about how this conflict is erupted by a stone. Like the stone causes this, and he ridicules this reason. It's a very trivial, a reason that people fight for stones. Yes. So and wars erupting from a stone, and the poem emphasizes spiritual transcendence as well. And captures a dreamlike state where the poet becomes someone else. Yes, he says, I'm not me. Yes, I'm not the same person. And by this, he embodies renewal and revelation. He becomes someone else. He wants to become someone else. And despite this, he becomes trapped within this cycle of non-ending violence. And it reminds us also of Amichai's poem as well, yeah? In the end, I think, this cycle of violence is expressed in the end. Yes, this is the one when he calls the woman soldier, is that you again? Did I kill you? Which he asks him, and he says, you killed me and I forgot like you to die. Some people say that it represents or it illustrates the non-ending violence or cycle of violence, but at the same time, he might be referring to his girlfriend who was an Israeli girlfriend whom he met in the 60s, And he wrote this poem in 1967, so it must be, this is his girlfriend. He called her in his poem, he called her Rita, but her name, her original name is Bin Ami. They say that because he was mentioning or referencing to her in many poems, that it became controversial because every time they asked him, who is this woman, or who did you write this, or who do you mean by this poem, or who are you referring to? So I stopped mentioning her because people, Palestinian people started to question his, his serenity of being true Palestinian. So, but in fact, he loved her a lot, and they parted because of the political situation. She decided to become a soldier in the 6 Day War. So, and he wrote this poem to show his love and that they cannot be together again. So, yes, I think I saw a report about Tamara Ben Amni, and she said that she loved him, but they couldn't be together as well because of the political situation. So he wrote this poem, I'll read it also. Rita and the Rifle. بين ريتا وعيوني بندقية، والذي يعرف ريتا ينحني ويصلي بإله في العيون العسلية. وأنا قبلت ريتا عندما كانت صغيرة، وأنا أذكر كيف التصقت بي وغطت ساعدي أحلى ضفيرة. وأنا أذكر ريتا مثلما يذكر عصفور غديره. ريتا، بيننا مليون عصفور وصورة ومواعيد كثيرة. أطلقت نارا عليها بندقية. اسم ريتا كان عيدا في فمي، اسم ريتا كان عرسا في دمي. وأنا ضعت بريتا سنتين، وتعاهدنا على أجمل كأس، واحترقنا في نبيذ الشفتين، وولدنا مرتين. ريتا، أي شيء رد عن عينيك عيني سوى إخفاءتين وغيوم عسلية. قبل هذه البندقية كان يا ما كان، يا صمت العشية. قمري هاجر في الصبح بعيدا في العيون العسلية، والمدينة كنست كل المغنين، وريتا بين وعيوني بندقية. So he mentions, it's very obvious. Yes, he says how the rifle separated them apart, and of course, yes, the rifle became a powerful symbol of division between them. It divided them apart. So it also shows his position from the war, and how love and love cannot prevail if you have a war or a conflict. Yes. So in the following poem, he illustrates or portrays Jerusalem as both a place of memory and loss, a spiritual metaphor, asking whether its ancient symbols can still offer peace and redemption amidst contemporary turmoil. Part of his poem titled The Tragedy of Narcissus and the Comedy of Silver, the poet mediates on the complex history and identity of Jerusalem, but in this case he calls it Orshalim. He does not call it Jerusalem or Al-Quds as in the Arabic name, but Tikos' Orshalim in Hebrew, symbolizing the city as a site of perpetual, again, conflict, non-ending violence, coexistence, and cultural blending. Throughout evocative imagery and historical references spanning Roman, Jewish, Christian, and Arab narratives, the poet embraces profound existential questions, as we will see. This is only part of it. It's a very long poem, and those who are interested in poetry can go and read it, the whole of it, and it's also in translation on the internet, so you can find it. The poem suggests that Jerusalem is, by extension, human existence, is characterized by cycles of conquest and also coexistence at the same time, history and forgetting, tragedy and comedy, while underscoring a collective yearning for peace, clarity, reconciliation, and reconciliation. We also, I also should mention that he suggests that, this place has been, people have been fighting for this place, but these people are the same people. They're similar. They have shared history. They have shared cuisine. They have shared roots, yes? So why should they fight with each other? This is what we can realize reading the whole poem. It's called مأساة النرجس وملهاة الفضة. So he's talking about also Narcissus, how he died because of his self-love. He says that people, fight and kill each other because of self-love. They love themselves so much that they forget about the other. They delete the other because of self-love and self-immersion, yes, being immersed in yourself, like Narcissus. عادوا إلى ما كان فيهم من منازل واستعادوا قدم الحرير على البحيرات المضيئة واستعادوا ما ضاع من قاموسهم زيتون روما في مخيلة الجنود ثورات كنعان الدفينة تحت أنقاض الهياكل بين صورة وأورشليم وطريق رائحة البخور إلى قريش تهب من شام الورود وغزالة الأبد التي زفت إلى النيل الشمالي الصعود وإلى فحولة دجلة الوحشية وهو يزف سومر للخلود كانوا معا يتحاربون ويغلبون ويغلبون كانوا معا يتزوجون وينجبون سلالة الأضداد أو نسل الجنون كانوا معا فكيف ندرك ما نسينا عاد المسيح إلى العشاء كما نشاء وماري عادت إليه على جديلتها الطويلة كي تغطي مسرح الرومان فينا هل كان في الزيتون ما يكفي من المعنى لنملأ راحتيه سكينة وجروحه حبقا ونطلق روحنا ألقا عليه. We can see here how he uses, these biblical references about the Torah, about, Jerusalem, also the Romans. Yes, all these people fought for this land, but they fight, they marry each other, intermarry, yes, and then they kill each other. But in the end, we see that he hopes for Christ to come to he refers to the Last Supper, yes, as if Christ was not, did not die and his enemies did not happen. But of course, he says as a wish, but it didn't happen, yes, because it's only a wish. All right. So our last poem, it's a poem, as you can see, the epitaph is from Mahmoud Darwish poem Nora, displayed in Nede Shalom cemetery in Jerusalem. And of course, Nede Shalom is a city where Jews and Arabs live, yes, the Arabs and Jews live in. And he talks to death, he addresses death directly. And so he says, أيها الموت انتظر حتى أعد حقيبتي فرشاة أسناني وصابوني وماكنة الحلاقة والكولونيا والثياب. هل المناخ هناك معتدل؟ وهل تتبدل الأحوال في الأبدية البيضاء؟ أم تبقى كما هي في الخريف وفي الشتاء؟ وهل كتاب واحد يكفي لتسليتي مع اللاوقت؟ أم أحتاج مكتبة؟ وما لغة الحديث هناك دارجة لكل الناس أم عربية فصحى؟ ويا موت انتظر يا موت حتى أستعيد صفاء ذهني في الربيع. So he also mentions these mundane everyday objects that everyone needs. Yes, he ridicules death in a way, but I see it also as as symbol for the exile that he experienced when he was, and his family and many families, of course, 1948, were depopulated. They didn't have time to think. They just had to take, things very quickly to somewhere that they don't know about. It's like death. Yes, it's a journey of death. I see it like this, and I see it also as a philosophical, piece that he, whereby he addresses death and ridicules death, that it doesn't give you time to prepare, yes? And so he asks death to wait until he prepares himself and he clears his mind and recalls, his health. So this is it, but I wanted to say that Jerusalem for me, as a person, I was born in Jerusalem and I lived most of my youth in Jerusalem. For me, Jerusalem is a place where we can talk, we can walk, and we can have friends. These pictures are images from, of course, modern day Jerusalem. For me, it's a place of aromas and, tastes. I remember myself finishing school with my friends, going to the markets and buying the kite. This is the most famous kite, which is Jerusalem bread, very famous with sesame. Eating that, not telling my family that I'm going to be late, telling just that, I used to run away after school, wander about and having fun, and you can, for those who were in the markets, can still feel and smell these aromas. Yes, and it's very nostalgic for me. But also when I go to the western side, I cannot ignore the aromas of the burekas, which is the Jewish version of the French croissant, yes, but it's more delicious actually. Not the burekas, the ogiot, yes, and the burekas is also delicious. So the ogiot is the one, the croissant, the Jewish version of the croissant with the chocolate. Yeah. So this is Jerusalem for me. It's a place where everyone should share the experience of living and eating together and having friends. Thank you very much.
Open it up for questions and comments, and those of you who are online, you may put them in the Q&A section, and I will get to them as the time comes. Yes.
Thank you. What was the names? Mahmoud Darwish and Yehuda Amichai are kind of household names. If I understand correctly, like Mahmoud Darwish has like a different status within Palestinian society than Yehuda Amichai in the Jewish Israeli side. Can you say anything about the reception or the resonance of Yehuda Amichai on the Jewish Israeli side, either related to Jerusalem or in general? And also maybe on the reception and the resonance of both poets on the quote-unquote other side.
The residents?
The resonance, the reception,
Resonance.
and the
Reception.
reactions over the decades.
Okay. So if I understand your question well, you want to talk about how Mahmoud Darwish is accepted and, how his name and status is within the Palestinian community, and how on the other side, Amichai has Israeli society.
Yeah, and the other way around.
And then how each society views the other word.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
the excerpts you read really speak to
For
the political.
instance, I will tell you, my story represents a story of Palestinians in Israel, where we have to study Hebrew from third grade, and we study also Amichai in the curriculum. But the thing is that for years, Mahmoud Darwish was banned from the Arab curriculum. Only recently, some of his poems were allowed. I think Yosef in 2008 tried to integrate some of the poetry of Darwish in our curriculum, but he did not manage. But only recently, I think 2 years or 3 years ago, some of his poetry were integrated into the Arab Israeli curriculum, because we have different, curricula in Israel. But the Jews were allowed to study Mahmoud Darwish. We couldn't. Yeah. So there is an improvement in the acceptance of Darwish within the Israel formal, let's say, Ministry of Education plans. And for me as a student, when studying like Hebrew literature, I loved everything about literature. I did not think about Jewish or Palestinian. I only love the way somebody writes, and especially if it's about things that transcend conflicts and background and religion and all these things. Does this answer or your question?
Anything about Yehuda Amichai on the Palestinian side, like Palestinian society writ large?
I think you have to be. He's not very well known only for literary people, but we have to learn him in school. Yes, so it's a personal taste. Which poet you like? Some people would maybe or students love other poets. I don't know. Yeah, but I saw in Amichai, I love the language that he uses, like the colloquial Hebrew was very easy. And, this similarity between him and Mahmoud Darwish was amazing. The way they look for new religion and the way they use daily and objects, and at the same time using biblical historical references. Yeah. Yes.
You mentioned that you weren't, that the Arab community weren't allowed to study Yehuda Amichai, so kind of like relating to his previous question, like what did that have to do with the perception of him in that community? Like, why was that?
No, he was. Oh, sorry?
Darwish was not
Darwish was banned, no?
Oh, so
Yeah, no, Amichai, everyone, Bialik, we studied everything, Kamak, we studied the Mifalin, everything.
so
We were editor, we should study everything. Yeah, with Darwish. At the time when I was a student, it didn't occur to me, I wasn't so aware of the fact that I wasn't allowed to study him, because he was not banned in libraries. So you could go and buy his books everywhere. So every house has his books and his poems, but in the curriculum, he was banned. I'm talking about historical fact. So as a student, a teenager, we did not care much about, whether he was bad or not. But later on, because we're, the less the better for students, yes? So, but later in life, I realized that, I messed up. Like, I should have studied him.
So do you think that, because it's banned in the curriculum, it influenced, it made it harder to access in the home, even though it wasn't?
No, you could,
banned, or you could still access
he
it?
was not banned from the market. He was banned in the curriculum. Because I think it's a formal institution, governmental institution, but in the market, no one banned us from buying. That's why I remember we had this point, but, I was less inclined into political things. I was as a teenager inclined into more romantic stories, and I think everyone who was a teenager is more inclined into, romance and yeah, but growing older, I realized that this happened, and I didn't know at the time. Yeah, it's like the land day also. We as a teenager, we could not commemorate the land day, which happened in my case, but now, when I was a high school teacher, we were asked by the Ministry of Education to designate 2 classes to talk to students about this memory, about the Nakba, about everything. But in the past, it was not allowed. So I think things are improving in the curriculum.
So it's changed.
Yeah, it is changing. Yes, yes.
So we have one question online, and then we have Anna, and then I don't know your name. Out. So the question online is one of our members of the audience is, the last poem on death with the Hebrew and Arabic side by side made me wonder to what extent the similarity of Hebrew and Arabic makes a bridge between Hebrew and Arabic poets.
Yeah, well, don't forget that Hebrew and Arabic are Semitic languages, and there are many similarities in pronunciation. So even if you understand Arabic and even focus, you will see that there are many similarities between these 2 languages. And of course, Arabic, I should say, is way more difficult than Hebrew. Hebrew is much easier for us. Yeah, and the Arabs don't use standard Arabic. We only use it for reading and for writing. But when you speak, we speak colloquial Arabic, which also has so many versions. It depends on where you are in the world.
And that's what he also talks about.
Yeah. Yeah.
What language spoken or how.
Yeah, he asked about what language maybe he's talking about. Not only death, but moving to somewhere else where they speak another language that he might not understand.
So Anna and then Anna.
Maybe it is much more a comment than a question, because it is speaking to me how much importance by both poets was accorded to the dynamics of transcendence and revelation, even in religious context and not in intra-religious context, I would call it that way. Because I read Darwish in French some time ago, and Yehuda Amichai, because I studied comparative literature, and he was born in Würzburg, and therefore we made the trip to visit the small museum in the Jewish community, museum of Yehuda Amichai. And what is very intriguing to me is also how much Darwish, to some extent, is influenced by the classical Arabic love poetry. And I had the feeling, especially reading his Turita, that it is still strongly the imagery taken from Jalaluddin Rumi and from the Persian and also classical Arabic poetry. the pictures, which are like, and also Sufi, like robes.
So, you want me to comment on that? Ah, okay, so, actually, we cannot deny that, literature, relevance exists and similarity exists. I might be reading something for, Blake, for example, and when I write a poem, I might, use his imagery or some of his words without knowing, yes. So I think because these two languages are very similar, and I believe that as I said before, that Darwish read Amichai, and he knew him. I think they met also in some sources they said they met. So he was fond of Amichai. He says so in some of his interviews. So I think that he was some of his language was affected by Amichai. Yeah.
So I'm really curious about what you've just told us, that curriculum now in Israel are, more open to, for example, talking about the Nakba. It was my understanding that things had become much more right, swung to the right. In fact, it was only a few years ago that Arabic was deleted.
Mentions that.
Yeah, so could you talk about it?
No, I'm not talking about this year or here, not the last. It's not in the last. Minneapolis.
Okay.
Yes, it's before. Yeah.
Like what years are you? Can you just?
I think yes. I think who studied. This is my daughter asking. Maybe 10 years.
Then things started getting more.
Yeah, but things are, I guess, being worse in the for the Arab population also in Israel. Yes, and the budgets now are being minimized, and some projects have been stopped recently because of the last budget that was authorized recently. But as far as I know, that in terms of the curriculum, it was changed like I think 10 years ago, and so.
I think, especially if you compare it to the time when military rule was there, I wasn't born yet.
Yeah.
I wasn't born either.
Sorry.
So maybe my yeah, but I think it's more times are changing, in general, not specifically in the last 5 years or since the political status has become more right-wing than before. I think in the whole picture, it has changed for the better, but not specifically in the last couple of years.
So that I don't know if you come from East Jerusalem?
No.
Oh, okay.
West Jerusalem, but I
You're
studied
not
East Jerusalem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, but I was wondering, so East Jerusalem, that
It has a special status, yes. People in East Jerusalem are permanent residents. They hold the Jordanian passport. It's very complicated. I hold the Israeli passport. People in East Jerusalem hold the Jordanian passport. People in the West Bank hold the Palestinian passport. So it's a very complicated.
What's the curriculum of the East Jerusalem?
East Jerusalem, it's also, it has to correspond with the Israeli government because, otherwise the schools won't be, won't continue, yes. I studied until the 10th grade in East Jerusalem because my parents saw that they were better teaching. Abugosh, for example, I come from Abugosh, in Western.
You're from
Yeah.
So it was Israeli, you studied in Jerusalem, Israeli.
It was, for me, it was more difficult to study the history. When I went to, it was an intifada, second intifada, and my school closed, that's why I moved to Abugosh again, and I studied the 11th grade, the 12th grade, and I did the recruit exam. But I think it was easier for me because all the material they taught even in younger, grade, in younger classes. So I was, most of the material was already, I studied already. So, but if you mean, in terms of the nature of the, it's not against, it cannot contradict with the Israeli government, otherwise I would close the school. This is what I know, yes. Because recently a friend of mine wrote about this very, issue about closing some of, shutting down some of Jerusalem schools because it would not correspond with the policy of Israel. Yeah, but most of them really do correspond to the Israeli Jerusalem. It's different, but it has to, some lines you cannot cross.
On that not so cheery. We are approaching 1 p.m., so I suggest we finish, but we can still informally converse after that. So I want to thank you all for coming, and thank you all for joining us online. And thank you.